You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Dead up perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Deku Meets Sonic? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Sonic Speed 546 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Toshinori smiled. Getting into U.A is no easy task, it will take lots of strong work and dedication. Don't worry Tosh. Me and my little buddy will work our tails off. We won't let you down. Sonic exclaimed as he slinged an arm around classic Sonic's shoulders, who nodded his head in agreement. Yes, you both will have to try your absolute best and go plus ultra. Toshinori yelled out as he transformed into his all-might form before immediately turning back into a frail man. Plus ultra? What does that mean? Sonic asked with curiosity. It's an old saying that means to go further beyond and to overcome your limits, Toshinori explained. Now, back to talking about getting into U.A, Toshinori began. To get in, you both will need to take and pass the U.A entrance exam. Right. I remember you mentioning something about an exam. What does it take to pass it? Sonic asked. The entrance exam happens in 10 months' time from now, so you both should have enough time to prepare, Toshinori explained. All I'm allowed to say is that the entrance exam is made up of 2 parts. The written part, and the practical. The written part is where you take a test. On the test there will be normal question about English, math, all those sorts of things. But it will mostly have questions on there that are hero-related, like what it takes to be a hero and what a hero should do in certain situations. For the practical part of the exam, however, I am not allowed to say, he continued. Don't worry about it. You just don't want us having an advantage over everybody else. I can respect that. Sonic happily agreed. I'm glad you see it that way, Toshinori nodded as he glanced to the clock on the wall. Well, it's starting to get late, I think it's time we hit the hay. Ah, what? Come on Tosh. Can we please stay up longer? Can't we watch TV? Sonic pleaded to Toshinori while classic Sonic was trying to win him over with puppy dog eyes. Sorry, my house, my rules, Toshinori gave a smug smile. Sonic groaned as he got up the couch. Not cool man, not cool, Sonic said with puffed-out cheeks as he made his way to his room, with classic Sonic following close behind with his arms crossed in the way of a small child when their parents don't let them get a toy they want from the store. Toshinori chuckled as he turned off the lights and made his to his room as he closed the door behind him. Sonic woke up very early the next morning feeling very tired. He groaned as he slowly sat up and rubbed his eyes. He noticed how classic Sonic was still asleep with one arm and leg dangling off the side of the bed and whose face was deep inside of the pillow. Sonic slowly and carefully made his way off the bed as he didn't want to wake his younger self up. He put his red shoes on and then walked over to the closet and began to slowly open it. His green eyes landed on the blue backpack that contained the Chaos Emeralds. He kneeled down and carefully unzipped the backpack, trying to not make too much noise. After seeing the 7 colorful jewel stones safely tucked away in the backpack, he zipped it back up and closed the closet up. Sonic then made his way over to the door before slowly opening it and peering out of the hallway. Not hearing any noise or commotion, Sonic began to tiptoe his way down the hall just in case Toshinori was still asleep. He made his way past the living room and into the kitchen. Sonic looked around before his eyes spotted the fridge, more specifically, the yellow sticky note, which looked like had writing on it that was sticking itself to the fridge. Sonic walked over and took the sticky note off the fridge and began to read. Young Sonic and Maurice, I am currently not home right now as I am dealing with a personal matter. I will be gone this early for the next 10 months until the school year for you. Starts. There is cereal in the top cabinet above the microwave and bowls and silverware is in the bottom cabinet if you two are hungry. I'll be gone for the next 6 hours, so take care of yourselves and stay plus ultra. P. Hesitant face to get ready for the UDA exam. There is a track a few blocks away from here. I recommend you both train and improve your speed to get ready. Toshinori, smiley face. A track, huh? That's a great idea. I could even teach past me some of my tricks that he doesn't know yet, or will know yet, Sonic corrected himself. But first, it's breakfast time. Sonic made his way over to the cabinet and took out a cereal box that had a honeybee on it. He set it on the counter as he walked over to the fridge and took out a jug of milk. He closed the door by tapping it with his foot before grabbing 2 bowls and 2 spoons, as he also planned to make his past self a bowl of cereal as well. After making himself in classic Sonic cereal, Sonic made his way over to the couch where he plopped himself on it and grabbed the remote and turned the TV on. He skimmed through the channels trying to find something interesting while eating his cereal. Sonic landed on a news report about an ongoing villain attack. On the screen, from what looked like a view of someone on a helicopter, was a person standing in the middle of the road surrounded by cop cars and pro-heroes that looked to be made out of glass, who was currently holding a bag presumably containing cash. "Drop the money and give up peacefully, we don't want to do this the strong way," one of the pro-heroes on the scene yelled. "Never." The glass villain yelled as he protruded glass spikes from all around his body before shooting all of them out in different directions. All the cops ducked and covered behind their vehicles while the pro-heroes dodged out of the way. One of the pro-heroes created a purple energy sphere around herself as she blocked the incoming glass shards from hitting her. Couldn't Silver do something like that? Sonic asked himself as he continued to watch the action unfold on television. His concentration was broken as he heard footsteps coming from the hallway. He turned his head and found classic Sonic standing at the edge of the hallway, rubbing his half-opened eyes tiredly. "Oh hey. You're awake. I made some cereal for you, it's on the counter back there," Sonic said as he pointed a thumb behind him. "Hurry and get it though, because there's something really interesting going on here on the news." Classic Sonic nodded as he made his way to the kitchen. He had to jump on a stool to reach his cereal because of his height. After grabbing it, he made his way back to the living room and sat himself right next to his older self on the couch and began to watch the television. As the heroes recovered from the attack, the villain started to monologue. "For so long I've been told that my quirk was useless, but now I'm here proving that it's not. And now no one can st-dash." The glass villain was interrupted as a huge stream of fire collided into the villain's back, throwing him forward, causing him to be thrown into a car, making the windows shatter and leaving behind a huge dent. The heat of the fire was so intense that the pro-heroes around had to cover their faces with their arms. "Whoa! Where the heck did that come from?" Sonic asked in surprise while classic Sonic opened his mouth, sharing his equal shock. As the villain recovered, a deep, rough voice could be heard. "You villains talk too much." The cameraman zoomed on a giant intimidating man that had red spiky hair and wore a dark blue suit with large orange flames coming off his shoulders, his boots, and pretty much most of his body, but most interesting of all was that the man had fire around his eyes like it was a mask. He also had a flame beard as well. The appearance of the man quickly had the attention of the two Sonics. "Wow, that is certainly one heck of a costume," Sonic said in awe as classic Sonic nodded his head in agreement, not even taking his eyes off the TV. It's the number 2 hero. Endeavor." The cameraman yelled out. "The number 2 hero? So that means this Endeavor guy is the runner-up behind All Might," Sonic guessed in his head. The glass villain looked towards Endeavor in horror as he looked around trying to find any way to escape. Endeavor sent another blast of fire towards the villain, who narrowly jumped out of the way. As he dodged, the stream of fire hit a car which instantly vaporized it. "This guy is just like Blaze," Sonic said to himself as classic Sonic turned to look at him. "Oh yeah, she's someone you'll eventually meet in the future. She'll try to kill you at first, but don't worry. You'll become great friends with her." Sonic nonchalantly claimed. Classic Sonic nodded slowly with wide eyes as he turned his attention back to the action while slowly taking another bite out of his cereal. The glass villain shot multiple shards of glass towards Endeavor, but unfortunately for him, Endeavor effortlessly swayed his hand forward, creating a large flame to block the glass that melted upon impact. Endeavor then charged towards the villain, who could only stand still paralyzed with fear and stare at him in horror as Endeavor built up flames on his right fist. He jumped up and brought his fiery fist back before landing in front of him as he threw his fist forward into the villain's face, knocking him down to the ground unconscious. The crowd started to cheer for Endeavor's victory as the villain's unconscious body was put in HNDCFFS and taken away. Endeavor only scoffed at the crowd before shooting like a rocket into the air by shooting fire from under his feet like a jet propulsion system. And that is another villain takedown under Endeavor's belt. The scene on the TV cut to the news station where a girl news journalist was on screen. Experts estimate that was Endeavor's 206th villain arrest this year. Quite impressive. But the number 2 hero is still falling behind in capturing villains compared to our symbol of peace Allmight, who recently just reached his 500th villain arrest this year, she exclaimed. Well, that was certainly something. I do wonder how that guy would hold up to Blaze though, Sonic wondered as he turned off the TV and got off from the couch and walked into the kitchen, putting his now empty bowl in the sink. Oh hey. Toshi left a note for us saying how there was a track nearby where we could train. I was thinking maybe I could show you a few of my tricks. Sonic yelled out to his younger self from the kitchen. He was met back with classic Sonic excitingly nodding his head as he remembered how his older self back in the white limbo land grabbed a Chaos Emerald by boosting mid-air towards it. Great! I was thinking we could head out now. Classic Sonic gave him a thumbs up as both of the blue hedgehogs headed out the door and walked towards the track. Both Sonics arrived at the track that was about the size of a small football field and had a few trees nearby. It wasn't anything special, but it would get the job done. Okay Sonic. You're fast. You can do the spin dash and the super peel out. But I think you should know how to do a few of your future self's moves. Sonic spoke. Classic Sonic answered by giving his older self an intrigued smile and began to jump up and down in excitement. That's what I like to see. Before I teach you though, how about a little friendly race? Sonic asked his past self. Classic Sonic looked at him in surprise for a moment before grinning as he couldn't refuse a race. He nodded confidently, showing that he accepted his future self's challenge. Alright. This will be fun. Sonic excitingly said. Let's line up right there. Sonic said while pointing over to a white line that was traced across the track. How about the first one to run 50 laps around the entire track wins? You can't use the spin dash or super peel out and I can't use the boost move. Deal? Sonic asked as he extended a hand out to Classic Sonic to shake on it. He was met with a nod as Classic Sonic shook his white glove with his. Both Sonics got into a running position right in front of the line. On your mark. Sonic began. Get set. Go. The two hedgehogs took off like jets as they left 2 dust trails behind them. Almost as quickly as they left, the 2 Sonics came back around as they completed their first lap, only to already complete their second and then third within seconds. As the Sonics continued to run around the track trying to gain the lead over each other, their velocities were climbing higher and higher with each lap they finished. By the time they reached the 25th lap, both hedgehogs were running around the track 3 times for every second that went by. Anyone viewing the race would only be able to see 2 blue rings and dust being thrown everywhere by the wind that was being caused by the sheer speed of the 2 blue blurs. As Classic Sonic continued to run, he managed to take the lead away from Sonic. They both approached the finish line with Classic Sonic smiling to himself as he was just a few milliseconds away from winning. The confidence on his face turned to that of shock as Sonic zoomed right past him, taking the victory away from Classic Sonic. Both hedgehogs skidded to a stop by digging their heels into the ground. Phew! That was awesome. That was a great race, buddy. Sonic said to Classic Sonic as he raised his hand for a high five. Classic looked down to the ground at his shoes, a little disappointed he lost, but looked up and made eye contact with his future self and smiled to him as he high-fived his future self. Okay. I think it's time that I dash. Hey. Before Sonic could continue, he was cut off by an angry voice. Huh. Both Sonic and Classic Sonic turned to the person who yelled out to them. The hedgehog's eyes landed on a tall blonde spiky-haired boy with red eyes who was wearing a black school uniform. Behind the blonde boy were two other boys in school uniforms. One of them had dark brown hair while the other one had longer hair that had a lighter shade of brown to it. Sonic stared at the blonde boy for a moment because he felt like there was something familiar about him. As Classic Sonic continued to stare at the boy, he ended up making eye contact with his fierce red eyes. The young Sonic's eyes widened as he realized who this boy was. It was the same boy who he had saved from the sludge villain. Katsuki Bakugo was not having a pleasant day. It didn't take long until everyone at school found out about the villain attack and how Bakugo was involved. Whenever Bakugo would walk through the halls, he could see other students staring at him and whispering amongst themselves. If he made eye contact he would glare back, scaring the student off. Yesterday, right after the villain's defeat, Bakugo caught up with Deku and threatened him to not think any little of him and reminded him of his place. Today Deku was muttering something about becoming a hero like usual during class. Usually Bakugo would confront and threaten him or even destroy his desk with his quirk to intimidate the green-haired boy. But this time he didn't care. He didn't care at all. All he could think about were two certain beings. Bakugo with his two other friends were currently walking home from school, while his two friends were taking to each other talking about something not worth his time. Bakugo was thinking about the two blue vigilantes that saved his and Deku's lives, and on how much he wanted to blow them to hell. In Bakugo's perspective, by being saved by the hedgehogs, it made him look weak, made him look defenseless, and that they might as well humiliated him in front of everyone watching. Sure, Deku tried to save him but he ultimately failed, and if All Might saved him instead then he would have gave him a pass and would have moved on because he looked up to All Might as much as Deku even if he didn't show it as much. But to be saved by two random vigilantes? Hell no. Why the hell did those two stupid blue mice have to save me? I didn't need their dumb help, Bakugo thought with gritted teeth. As Bakugo and his friends continued to walk, his black-haired friend turned his head to the right and spotted a track across the street, more specifically, spotted two familiar blue figures on the track. Hey! Aren't those the two vigilantes from yesterday? One of Bakugo's friends asked surprised. This brought Bakugo and his other friend to a halt and brought two more pairs of eyes on the blue hedgehogs. Holy CRP! It is! Bakugo's other friend said in disbelief. Bakugo only glared towards the blue hedgehogs as he began to stomp across the street, not even caring if he got hit by a car. His two other friends looked at each other with concern for a second before hurrying after the blonde. As Bakugo made it across the street, he was about to yell out to the blue hedgehogs before an idea came to his head. He then hid behind a nearby bush to spy on the two blue hedgehogs. His two other friends eventually made it to him and crouched down behind him. Bakugo, you're seriously not thinking about confronting them, are you? They're not weak like Midoriya, you know. Bakugo's black-haired friend pointed out. I know that, idiot. But I think they're about to race, and I just want to see how fast these two mouses are, Bakugo harshly replied. Dude, they literally created a tornado. Don't you remember? That enough should tell you how fast they are. Bakugo's other friend spoke. Shut up, Bakugo coldly replied, not even taking his crimson eyes off the blue hedgehogs. As the three boys watched, both hedgehogs got into running positions before taking off like rockets. Almost instantly did both hedgehogs complete their first lap, two already complete their second and third. Wow! Look at them go! They really are fast, Bakugo's other friend said in amazement. Bakugo had to admit he was kind of impressed, but he still only growled as watched the hedgehogs complete lap after lap faster than before. The only thing the boys could see were two blue rings that circled the entire track. they could also feel the wind that was being generated by the two blue blur speeds all the way from their hiding spots. The race came to a close as both hedgehogs skidded to a stop across the finish line, with the taller of the two jumping up and down in victory before giving the smaller one a high five. That was pretty cool. They might even be faster the dash. Cutting his friend off, Bakugo abruptly stood up and began to stomp his way over to the two hedgehogs. The two friends looked to him in worry before quickly following after him. "Hey!" Bakugo angrily yelled out to the hedgehogs. The now startled hedgehogs turned towards the blonde, who angrily called out to them. Can we help you guys?" Sonic confusingly asked as he looked between the three boys. "Why the hell did you do it?" the blonde boy asked, his voice much more hostile now. "I'm sorry, what?" Sonic asked, taken aback by his tone. Classic Sonic only stood cautious behind his future self. "I said, why the hell did you do it?" the blonde boy roared at the hedgehogs. The sudden yell by the blonde boy shocked both of the Sonics, causing them to take a step back. It even startled his own friends behind him. "Whoa! Hey! Take it easy, let's take it down a few, okay?" Sonic said while putting his hands out in front of him. Classic Sonic was balling his fists as if he was getting ready for a fight that was about to happen. "Not until you tell me why you both did it." The spiked blonde yelled as his hands looked like it had miniature explosions coming off them. That didn't go unnoticed by Sonic, however, as he then thought about what this kid was shouting about. The boy looked familiar to him, but he couldn't figure out where he's seen him before. His mind thought back to the sludge villain's attack from yesterday and how there was a kid that was causing explosions trying to escape. Sonic put two and two together and came to the realization. This was the same kid. "Wait a second, you're that kid we saved!" Sonic exclaimed. "Well, it looks like someone finally has gotten smart," the blonde-haired boy retorted. "Wait, is that what this is about? You're mad at me and my brother for saving you?" Sonic asked in disbelief. "Exactly. I didn't need your damn help. I didn't need anybody's." The blonde boy continued to yell in anger. "Oh really? Well, the last thing I remember is you thrashing around in that villain like a fish out of water," Sonic remarked, making Classic Sonic snicker from behind him. "What did you just say?" "I'll kill you." The blonde roared toward Sonic. The explosions on his hands grew even bigger now and were starting to make small pops. Even smoke was starting to appear. "Kill me? Ha! You couldn't even catch me or my bro if you wanted to, boom boy. I can promise you that." Sonic taunted. The blonde boy's anger was rising as his face was starting to get red. "I'll blow you mice straight to hell. I'll promise you both that," he continued to scream in fury. "Trust me, pal. You do not want this fight. You can blink and the next thing you'll know is you're 1,000 miles away in the middle of nowhere only wearing your underwear." Sonic smirked. Classic Sonic stuck his tongue out at him before blowing raspberries. "You both are dead. Well, if it's a tussle you want, then it's a tussle you'll get." The two hedgehogs readied themselves for the blonde boy in front of them to make a move. But before the blonde could charge at the two Sonics, one of his friends managed to put his hand on the kid's shoulder. "Bakugo, no. If you fight them, then you could ruin any chance you have of getting into U.A. Wait, this kid is trying to get into U.A as well?" Sonic questioned mentally. "Yeah, man. You have to think rationally," the other boy said. The blonde now known as Bakugo glared at them before huffing and turning back. "Fine, but this isn't over," Bakugo growled as he began to storm away with his friends quickly following. As Bakugo stomped away, he looked over his shoulders back at the hedgehogs. "Just so you know, when I get into U.A, I am going to be the best hero there is. You got that?" Bakugo yelled back. "Whatever you say, boom boy." Sonic yelled back as he waved to the hothead in hopping to tick him off even further. "Geez, what a loudmouth. Someone definitely woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Sonic joked, causing classic Sonic to chuckle. But seriously though. Who did that kid think he was? His attitude was just as sour as Shadow's. But even Shadow wouldn't just threaten someone for saving his life. Did that kid have a superiority complex or something? Or was his ego just that big and fragile? Sonic has met a lot of people with both, with most of the time them receiving a nice big reality check in the end. Another thing that was throwing Sonic off was that kid wanted to become a hero. And go to U.A. How could someone like that want to become a hero? Sonic had no idea. All he knew was that kid needed some serious anger management before he could ever hope of becoming one. Sonic sighed before smiling and observing his surroundings. Well, I would teach you a few of my tricks, but I think Boom Boy kind of killed the mood. Classic Sonic nodded with a frown, obviously disappointed. How about we hold it off until tomorrow and we can just go back to Toshi's? Sound good? Sonic asked his past self. He was met back with a thumbs up as both Sonics made their way back to their new home. Both hedgehogs were lazily watching TV with Sonic resting his head on the sofa arm while classic Sonic was upside down hanging off the sofa. Both of the hedgehogs' ears twitched as they heard the lock on the front door click as the door opened revealing Toshinori. Sup Tosh. How was your day? Sonic greeted as he got off the couch while classic Sonic fell off for being upside down. It was pretty good. Young Sonic took care of some stuff. Stopped a few muggers and villains as all might, Toshinori responded as he put his keys in the bowl. How was yours and young Maurice's day? It was going smooth until Boom Boy showed up. Sonic shrugged. Boom Boy? Toshinori confusingly repeated while scratching his head. That kid that we saved from the sludge villain that was causing all of the explosions. Ah yes, I remember him, Toshinori said as he thought back to the prior events of yesterday. Wait, were you there or something? Sonic asked. I never told you or Maurice this, but I was actually part of the crowd that was watching, Toshinori revealed. You were? Sonic asked, surprised. I don't think me or other me saw you. I was in the far back because I didn't want anyone to see me turning into All Might, but before I could you and young Maurice beat me to it in defeating the villain, Toshinori said while gesturing to classic Sonic. Why didn't you help? Sonic asked as classic Sonic looked towards Toshinori for his answer. Toshinori sighed as he sat down on the couch, because young Sonic I couldn't turn into All Might. This surprised both Sonics. What do you mean? Do you both remember when I told you both about the villain that I fought that caused this scar back at the station? Toshinori asked as he received nods from both Sonics. Well, ever since then I've been losing my power, my quirk, Toshinori explained, a look of sadness on his face. Both Sonics looked at him with shock. You're losing your quirk. But how is that possible? Sonic asked. Multiple reasons actually. You see, my quirk's true name is One for All. One for All. Sonic repeated. Classic Sonic only looked at him with curious eyes. Yes, only a few people know about it and it's best if it stays that way. You see, my quirk has been passed down through the generations, from one successor to another. Passed down? So you were like given your quirk? Sonic asked. He nodded. Exactly, I was given my quirk from my MSTR. So what does this have to do with you losing your powers? Sonic asked as classic Sonic nodded in agreement. Because I have someone in mind to be my successor, and once I give him my power, my quirk will start to dwindle even faster, Toshinori revealed. Who? Sonic asked. You should know him, considering that you saved him. Sonic thought for a moment. At first, he thought was talking about Boom Boy and was gonna tell him how crazy he was for choosing someone like that, but then his mind went to the green-haired boy that he saved. Wait, are you talking about that green-haired kid? Sonic asked as classic Sonic's eyes widened at the realization. Indeed I am, although that boy is quirkless, he has the heart of a hero, Toshinori stated. He's quirkless. Sonic thought, feeling sorry for the kid. Sonic found out that being quirkless meant you have no powers, and that the quirkless were kind of looked down upon on this world. Sonic thought that was dumb and that quirkless people shouldn't be looked down upon. After all, it wasn't their fault that they were unlucky with the genetic lottery. But once I give him my power, Toshinori continued, I'll get weaker and weaker until I lose one for all completely. And the world can't know that the symbol of peace is getting weaker, because then the villains will start to get bolder and more ruthless. Sonic thought about Toshinori's words for a moment, completely agreeing with everything he said. If he was losing his power, one for all, then villains would go on a rampage. Despite just arriving to this world a day ago, the two Sonics could easily notice the impact All Might had on this world. Most of the channels on Toshinori's TV would talk about anything All Might related. And then there were the billboards that were on almost every corner of Mustafa that had All Might and his sparkling smile on them. And that wasn't even including all the fan clubs he had on the internet. He was quite figuratively the backbone of superheroes. If everyone found out he was losing his powers, the whole world would freak. But Sonic could strangely relate to this. Heh, so I guess you're in the same boat as us then, Hatoshi. Toshinori looked at Sonic weirdly while Classic Sonic also gave him a curious look. What do you mean, young Sonic? Toshinori questioned. Well, you have to hide from the world about the existence of One for All and at the fact that All Might is getting weaker, while me and my little brother here have to hide the existence of the Chaos Emeralds and the fact that we're both Sonic the Hedgehog, since that would freak a lot of people out. Sonic explained. Toshinori stroked his chin in thought, I suppose. So we're all in the same boat here. We should all work together and go beyond. Sonic exclaimed as he put his hand out. Toshinori and Classic Sonic looked to each other before smiling and putting their hands on top of Sonic's. Plus Ultra. The three of them threw their hands up into the air. 10 months later. The 10 months that Sonic and Classic Sonic have been on this world went by in a flash. For the past month Sonic and Classic Sonic would head down to the track at a time where Bakugo, or what like Sonic liked to call him, Boom Boy, wouldn't be passing by. Sonic would work with Classic Sonic on some of his moves or would generally race him time to time. Sonic even asked All Might at home if he wanted to race. All Might being the jolly good hero that he is gladly accepted the challenge. Both Sonics ended up racing All Might individually at the track. Citizens that were walking by ended up stopping to watch the fun event mainly because of All Might's presence, to the point where a large crowd formed. In that crowd was a familiar green-haired boy who had his notebook ready. Almost everyone who was watching was surprised when both Sonics ended up winning the race against All Might. But the Sonics and All Might just laughed it off as they shook hands for the great race they had. At home Toshinori would teach the two hedgehogs the basic rules of the world. Like the different types of quirks SCK as mutant types and emitter types, or the basics on quirk laws. He would occasionally also teach basic stuff like math or English, which the two Sonics thought were pretty boring. 24 hours before the U.A exam. Sonic was currently trying to cheer up a let-down Classic Sonic, as so far he hadn't been able to learn any of his future self's moves. Despite being fast on his feet, was Classic Sonic a slow learner? Hey buddy, don't worry about it. You'll learn those moves inevitably, considering you're me, but you won't need them to ace this thing. Sonic said, trying to cheer up his younger self. Classic Sonic gave a small smile but still looked a little bummed out. Hey, tell you what. How about after the exam tomorrow, we go get some chili dogs? Sonic said. At the mention of a chili dog, Classic Sonic's head shot up as he excitedly nodded his head up and down. That's what I like to see. Gotta keep that positive attitude, Sonic said with glee. Well, I'm going to sleep, night, Maurice, Sonic snorted, trying to not laugh at the dumb name he came up with for his past self as he turned off the light. Classic Sonic rolled his eyes as he flipped the covers over himself before eventually falling into dreamland. Both of the two Sonics were currently standing in front of the gates of UA. Toshinori had just dropped them off, the Sonics insisted that they could have ran here but because of Quirk laws Toshinori wouldn't allow it. So this is Udare, huh? Sonic whistled, taking in the massive structure. Udare was made up of 4 giant glass buildings that were connected to each other, giving the building an appearance of that of a big H. The building itself was surrounded by a big concrete wall with only one entrance, that being the one where Sonic and Classic Sonic were standing. "Alright buddy. Let's do this." Classic Sonic turned to his future self before he nodded his head with equal amounts of confidence brewing off him, just like with his older self. The 2 Sonics began to walk towards the entrance on the path. Sonic was looking at everyone else who was also taking the exam, amazed by all the different shapes and sizes. This world was really something. Meanwhile, Classic Sonic was looking at the nearby sculptures of faces, presumably of past heroes that taught here. As the 2 blue hedgehogs continued walking, Sonic spotted a familiar puff of green hair up ahead, and he also spotted trouble. "Oh great, it's Boom Boy," Sonic groaned mentally. Bakugo, or what Sonic liked to call him, Boom Boy, was currently saying something towards the green-haired boy while the kid was frantically waving his arms while saying something in panic. Sonic thought Boom Boy was about to start something and was about to rush over there to intervene. Surprisingly though, Bakugo just walked past without even giving him a glance. Sonic sighed out of relief before turning to Classic Sonic, who was making funny faces at the strange sculptures. "Hey Maurice. Look who's up ahead." Sonic exclaimed. Classic Sonic looked ahead and had a look of surprise when he saw the green-haired boy. "Let's go say hi," Sonic said as Classic Sonic nodded happily in agreement. Both Sonics picked up the paces until they were right behind the green-haired boy, who still hasn't moved at all after his encounter with Boom Boy. "Hey! Green-haired kid! How have you been?" Sonic exclaimed. This caused the green-haired boy to jump out of surprise before turning around to face the hedgehogs. It's you. It's both of you," the green-haired boy said out of shock. "Yup, it's us again. I saw you up ahead and me and my little buddy decided to come say hi." Sonic smiled. Now, because of how close Sonic was and that there was no sludge monster attacking, Sonic had the time to actually take in the kid's appearance. He had messy green hairs, 4 freckles under his 2 eyes, and his eyes were emerald green just like his own. "Hey, I just realized I never caught your name." Oh. My name is Izuku. Izukumidoriya." The green-haired boy, now known as Izuku, stammered badly. "It's nice to meet you, Izuku. Just in case if you don't remember, I'm Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog. And my little bro here is Maurice," Sonic said while Classic Sonic gave Izuku a cheeky wave and smile. Midoriya only looked at the hedgehog in confusion, which also confused the 2 Sonics. "Is something wrong?" Sonic asked. "Huh? Oh. It's nothing, it's just that, usually people call each other by their last names," Izuku explained. Oh. My bad. I completely forgot that's how names work here in Japan." Sonic apologized. The blue hedgehog mentally punched himself. He completely forgot what Toshinori taught him and his past self about how here in Japan only close ones called each other by their first names. It's fine. Really? It sounds like you're a foreigner. Why, you don't have to worry about it," Izuku reassured. "I guess that also explains why Toshi looks at me weirdly when I call him that," Sonic thought, coming to the conclusion. "Well, you can just call me Sonic and my brother Maurice. Calling us Hedgehog would be a little weird." Sonic chuckled. That would be a little weird." Izuku gave an awkward chuckle of his own. "So are you both here for the entrance exam?" the green-haired boy asked, in hopes of changing the subject. "You bet. Me and my little bro are here to ace this thing and get into you. Right, Maurice?" Classic Sonic gave a thumbs up and a smile. "Oh, and by the way, Maurice here isn't that much of a talker, so just a heads up," Sonic explained as Classic Sonic nodded his head. Oh, okay. Are you sure that won't affect his chances of getting into you though? Izuku asked, a little worried for his new friend. Nah, I think he'll be fine. If he gets in, he could just write on a piece of paper or something when he wants to speak. Sonic guessed. That would be fine, right, Maurice? Sonic asked, looking back to his little brother. Classic shook his head, showing he didn't have a problem doing that. Okay, that's good. Well, it was nice seeing you two again. Good luck at the exam. Midoriya smiled as he turned around. Unfortunately for Izuku, not even taking his first step, he tripped over his leg and was falling to the ground. With Sonic's quick reflexes, he was about to rush over and catch him before he could face plant into the ground, but Sonic stopped and looked at the boy stunned. Izuku, now realizing he didn't face plant, slowly opened his eyes and saw that he was floating. He started to freak out and began thrashing midair. Heh, are you okay? A cheery feminine voice asked. Midoriya stopped thrashing around as he looked up to a girl standing next to him. The girl giggled as she straightened him back up onto his feet. Whoa. Did you do that? Sonic asked behind the girl while classic Sonic rubbed his eyes to make sure he wasn't seeing things. Why, yeah. I stopped him by using my quirk. Pretty cool, right? She smiled down at Sonic. I'll say. Sonic replied in wonder as the girl turned back to Midoriya. I'm sorry I didn't ask first, but I figured you wouldn't mind me catching you, the brown-haired girl said with a small smile while Midoriya only stared at her with wide eyes. The girl had shoulder-length brown hair, had big brown eyes, a round face and had rosy cheeks. She was a bit shorter than Midoriya as well. She was wearing a brown coat with a pink scarf poking out, while carrying a gray backpack. That was so cool. Is your quirk like making things float? Sonic asked. Basically, my quirk allows me to control gravity. If I touch a person or thing, I make them weightless. But it unfortunately makes me nauseous a lot, the girl explained, giving a nervous laugh. That's a neat power. Besides the nausea thing, of course, Sonic responded, making the girl giggle. Well, I guess I'll see you guys inside. Wouldn't want to be late. Bye. The girl cheerily said before walking away and entering the school, leaving the three behind. Controlling gravity, huh? Sonic thought before he looked at the still frozen Izuku. Hey Midoriya, are you okay? Sonic asked, a bit worried. Huh? Midoriya began, snapping out of his shock. Oh. Why, yeah, I'm okay. It's just that I managed to actually talk to a girl. Midoriya excitingly said before laughing crazily, which kind of freaked out the two Sonics and everyone else nearby. I mean, technically I was the one talking, but I'm not gonna burst his bubble, Sonic thought. Well, it was nice meeting you, Sonic. You too, Maurice. Midoriya said before hurrying off to the exit. Oh. And thanks for saving me. Izuku yelled out. No problem. Sonic called back while waving at the green-haired boy before turning to Classic Sonic. Okay buddy, let's go. Classic Sonic nodded. Both of them entered the school and made their way to the exam room. Sonic and Classic Sonic were sat next to each other with a couple dozen other kids in an auditorium that had a giant monitor at the front that had U.A's symbol displayed. They had just finished taking the written part of the exam, which Sonic found was a little tough. Man, that test was pretty tough. I hope I did well on it, Sonic thought before looking at the many students around them. Wow, there's a lot of people in here. I think I can even see Boom Boy over there sitting with Midoriya. Sonic said to Classic Sonic. Suddenly the lights turned on one by one, quieting the candidates talking to each other. A groovy-looking man wearing a black LTHR jacket, yellow shades and headphones made himself known. The most interesting thing though was he was wearing a boom box around his neck and the fact that his blonde hair was sticking all the way up. Sonic internally laughed because the man to him looked like he had just used the Chaos Emeralds to go super. What's up you candidates? The man began on his microphone. Thanks for tuning in to me. Your school DJ. Come on and let me hear ya. The man yelled out with enthusiasm only to be met back with dead silence. Geez, tough crowd, Sonic thought. Keeping it mellow, huh? The man continued, that's fine, I'll skip straight to the main show. Let's talk about how this practical exam is going to. Are you ready? VOICEOVER, the man tried once again to get a reaction. Luckily this time he managed to get one person to cheer. And that of course was Sonic. Whoa. Yeah. Let's do this. The blue hedgehog cheered out, causing a few chuckles to ring out from the audience, including classic Sonic, while a certain boom boy only rolled his eyes in annoyance. That's what I like to see. It's nice to see that there is someone with the right attitude here. The man said. Now back to the exam. Like your application said, today you rockin' boys and girls will be out there conducting 10-minute mock battles in super hip urban settings. Behind the man on the screen, it showed 7 different colored squares with a letter in each one representing a battle center. After I drop the mic here, you all will head down to your specific battle center on the card in front of you. Sound good? The blonde man explained. Sonic picked up the card in front of him and examined it. Let's see. Exam ticket. Examinee 2301. Geez, there really is a lot of people here. Test location Battle Center, B. Which battle center are you in, little buddy? Sonic asked classic Sonic. His past self held up a card showing that he was in Battle Center A. Huh, guess we'll be going to different places. Sonic guessed while classic Sonic shrugged his shoulders. Okay, let's check out your targets. There are 3 types of faux villains in every battle center, the groovy man continued. You'll earn points based on their level of difficulty, so better choose wisely. The screen behind him changed into that of a 8-bit video game, showing a 8-bit version of the blonde man. Your goal in this trial is to use your quirk to shred these faux villains to raise your score. The man excitingly exclaimed while the 8-bit version of him on the screen was destroying robotic-looking enemies. But check it. Make sure you're keeping things heroic. Attacking other examinees is a no-go, you dig? Better tell that to Boom Boy then. Excuse me sir, but I have a question, a voice asked from the audience. Hit me. A light shined from above, hitting a navy blue-haired boy with glasses. On the printout, you listed 4 types of villains. Not 3. With all due respect, if this is an error on official materials. It is shameful. The blue-haired boy criticized. We are exemplary students, we expect the best from Japan's most notable school. Additionally, you with the unkempt hair, he said, pointing at a person who Sonic could see was Midoriya. You've been muttering this entire time. Stop that. If you can't bother to take this seriously, then leave. What's this guy's problem? He didn't have to do that. Sonic thought before standing up. He wasn't about to let this jerk get away from humiliating Midoriya. Hey! Leave him alone. He's not bothering you or anyone else. Sonic shouted, everyone's eyes now on him. Not bothering anyone? The boy repeated, a look of disbelief on his face as if he was appalled with someone disagreeing with him. He's being a distraction. Everyone here is trying strong to get into you. While he's only making noise just like you are this very moment, the blue-haired boy stated. Sonic glared forward at him. You became the distraction the moment you opened your big mouth. Perhaps if you let the man with the 6 shades continue speaking. Then you would have had your question answered. The entire auditorium proceeded to erupt in laughter. The now embarrassed teen opened his mouth to say something only to close it before turning to the man again. The serious look on the boy's face shattered as his face slightly reddened. Very well, I'm sorry for the interruption, you may continue, he bowed before sitting back down. Alright, settle down now. Now to answer examinee 7111 question, the 4th villain type is worth 0 points. That guy is just an obstacle we'll be throwing in your way, the blonde man explained while pointing at the outline of it on the screen. Think of it as a hurdle you should try to avoid. It's not that it can't be beaten, but there's, kind of no point. I recommend everyone to just ignore it and focus on the ones topping the charts. It sounds like we'll be destroying robots. This should be a piece of cake. Sonic quietly whispered over to Classic Sonic. That's all I have for today, folks. Head on over to your battle station and try your best. The groovy man exclaimed. Let's hear a plus ultra. The examinees got up and started to make their way out of the school to head over to their designated battle station. I guess this is where you and I spilt up, huh, Maurice? Sonic said. Classic Sonic gave him a slight nod. Good luck out there. See you on the flip side. Sonic smirked as he raised his fist up. Classic Sonic confidently smiled back before giving his future self a fist bump. Battle Center, B. Sonic with a few dozen other examinees were standing right in front of the massive gate to the man-made city that was Battle Center B. Man, how did they even afford to make this? I'm going to have to ask Tosh one day, Sonic said to himself. Sonic looked around to all the other examinees and spotted a few familiar faces. He saw the kid with glasses that he called out who was wearing a blue spandex suit. He also saw the brown-haired girl who could control gravity that looked like to be doing some sort of breathing exercise. Sonic then spotted. Hey, is that Midoriya? Sonic thought as he saw familiar messy green hair. Sure enough, Sonic saw Midoriya. He was standing a little far out from the main group and was wearing a Torx track suit. But by the look on his face he looked like a nervous wreck. Deciding to try and give the nervous boy a little boost of confidence, Sonic quickly made his way to the boy, separating himself from the group. Hey Midoriya! Sonic called out. Midoriya abruptly looked around before spotting his new hedgehog friend. Sonic. You're here too. You got it. I came by to wish you luck. Sonic exclaimed. Oh, thank you. Gee, good luck to you as well, Sonic. I'm just a little nervous, Midoriya said, fidgeting with his hands. No kidding. I could see you sweating up a storm from over there. Sonic joked, giving a slight laugh. It's just that I think everyone here already has written me off. They probably think I'm not a challenge to them, Midoriya spoke, a look of sorrow on the green-haired boy's face. Oh, come on. Don't say that. Just don't let them get to your head and try your best. Plus ultra style. Sonic said, trying to cheer up the boy. The green-haired boy had a smile on his face that appeared after hearing Sonic's confidence. Thanks, Sonic, I needed that. No problem. Just trying to help a friend out. Sonic happily agreed. It was strange though, Sonic knew Midoriya was the successor that Toshinori chose, so that meant he had one for all. And if he had All Might's power, then why was he so worried? Sonic chose to drop it because thinking about it right now wasn't a good thing. Hey Sonic. What's up? Sonic asked to Midoriya. I never got to ask, but, what's your kadash? Cutting the boy off, the groovy man from before came on the speaker. Right, let's start. Everybody looked at each other confused. Did that mean they were supposed to start now? What? There's no countdown in a fight. Now get your butts moving. Almost everybody looked at each other for a moment before sprinting in a mad dash to claim the points. OHCRP. They're leaving us behind. Midoriya shouted in fear. Not for long. Grab my hand. Sonic said to Midoriya, extending a gloved hand to Izuku. Not having time to question Sonic's methods. Midoriya grabbed his hand. Let's get this show on the road. Sonic exclaimed before taking off at a speed pretty high but not too high that would hurt Midoriya. They immediately passed the large cluster of examinees which didn't even notice them pass in the first place. Sonic came to a stop a good few feet away from the group. He looked at his green-haired friend who had wide eyes and whose green hair was bent back like he had been blown by the largest hair dryer on earth. Why you really are fast, Midoriya managed to stutter out. Yeah, I get that a lot. Well, this is where we split, Midoriya. Good luck out there. Sonic gave an thumbs up before taking off towards the center of the fake city, leaving behind a dust trail and a shocked Izuku. Sonic had ran a good distance away from everyone else before coming across his first one-pointer bot. There were two of them exactly. The two robots had forest green armor and moved around on one big wheel. They had one red glowing eye with two big armor plates as arms. Well, what do we have here? Sonic carelessly asked, gaining the attention of the robots. Target acquired. A robotic voice came from the one-pointers. Commencing attack, the two one-pointers began to charge towards Sonic. Sonic smirked as the first one-pointer was now right in front of him and was preparing to smash down its armor plate on the blue hedgehog. Sonic zipped out of the way as the armor plate came crashing down, leaving a small hole in the ground on where Sonic used to be. Come on. You'll have to do better than that. I've fought way worse than you tin heads. Sonic taunted before rushing to the robot. Sonic then performed a roundhouse kick on the robot's head, completely severing it from its body. The second one-pointer charged at Sonic only for the blue hedgehog to jump high in the air before performing a homing attack. Sonic shot towards the robot midair while curled in a ball, leaving behind a blue streak. The robot exploded into many pieces as the hedgehog collided into him. Too easy. This is just like destroying Eggman's badniks. Sonic compared the two scenarios in his head. Sonic continued to run around the city, destroying robots left and right with his sheer speed alone. Sonic came to a stop when he came across a three-pointer. Alright. Time to turn you into scrap. Sonic was about to boost before a blue laser came out of seemingly nowhere and destroyed the robot. WOAH, Sonic yelled out in surprise. He looked to where the laser came from and spotted a boy with long blonde hair and sparkling eyes. He had a weird belt around his stomach that had a glass cylinder over where his belly button would be. Hey, no fair. That was mine. Sonic complained. The boy giggled to himself before winking at the hedgehog and taking off. That was weird, Sonic said to himself with a shrug. Sonic heard a noise behind him. He turned around to find 3 two-pointers charging at him. Oh, that explains it. Well, more points for me. Sonic then took off using his boost move, appearing like a blue comet to anyone watching. He instantly obliterated the first two-pointer robot before immediately the other two fell to the same fate. Whew! That was tight. Sonic exclaimed. Okay, that should be around 39 points. I think that'll be enough. I'll let everyone else take care of the rest, Sonic said before speeding off. Battle Center, A. Classic Sonic so far had around 21 points, since the practical started. Classic Sonic would jump on a pointer's head, destroying the machine almost immediately like he would do to Robotnik's badniks, only this time there weren't any small animals inside. Classic Sonic was running through the street as he came across 2 one-pointer robots. He smiled to himself as he curled into a ball and started to charge up a spin dash. For a few seconds he was a spinning ball of blue before he shot forward like a bullet, piercing straight through both of the one-pointers, leaving behind 2 classic Sonic-sized holes. The 2 machines powered down as they fell to the floor. Classic Sonic smirked before he heard an explosion behind him. Where once was a two-pointer was a smoking pile of scrap, with the culprit right next to it. A familiar spiky-haired blonde with crimson-red eyes. Bakugo was looking down at his kill before making eye contact with the small blue hedgehog. He mouthed the words, "You're next," before running off to find more robots to blow up. Classic Sonic only rolled his eyes and shrugged his shoulders at what he thought was a lame attempt of intimidation before taking off at high speeds. The young Sonic was running around trying to find any other pointers to destroy, only to find them already destroyed. He came to a stop after finding the other examinees together, but before he could make any interaction with them, a loud rumbling noise was heard as the ground shook, throwing Classic Sonic off balance. Almost all of the pointers were destroyed at Sonic's battle center, either now scrap metal or just blown to smithereens. Sonic was standing with the rest of the examinees before a rumbling sound was heard. What could that possibly be? Sonic thought to himself. Up ahead from the examinees was a huge dust cloud caused by the destruction of nearby buildings, and inside could be seen was a huge ominous black shadow. The dust soon cleared, revealing a titanic green mech that covered them with its shadow. Sonic stared up at the thing in shock. This thing was massive. Even Eggman had never built a mech this big before. Was this the zero-pointer that guy was talking about before? The giant mech lifted its arm before punching the ground, sending out a shock wave. Everyone else started to run in panic as they tried to get away as far as possible from the mech. Sonic was about to head to the direction where everyone else was going before his ears picked up a cry for help. He looked back to find that girl who could control gravity stuck under some debris caused by the zero-pointer. Gravity girl? Sonic thought in shock before he began to run. Don't worry. I'm coming. Sonic yelled out as he zoomed towards the pinned-down girl. Speeding by the other fleeing examinees, and a particular blue-haired boy, Sonic reached the girl. Don't worry. I'm going to get you out of here. Sonic reassured her. Oh okay, the brown-haired girl groaned. Sonic jumped into the air and did a homing attack on the stone pillar, shattering it into many pieces that had the girl's leg trapped. After landing, Sonic helped the girl up to her feet. Thank you. I don't know what would have happened to me if you didn't get me out of there. She thanked Sonic. No time to thank me now. We still need to get out of the way of that thing. Sonic claimed, receiving a nod from her. Because of the girl's sprained ankle and because of Sonic's height, she had to lean on top of Sonic's head to move while Sonic held onto her waist. At the speed they were going, the chances of them getting out of there were slim to none. Suddenly, without warning, Midoriya ran past the two before jumping high into the air. Both Sonic and the brown-haired girl looked up in shock at Midoriya. Sonic asked himself in disbelief. Midoriya was flying through the air towards the mech's head before he landed a massive blow to the side of the mech's face, causing it to stumble and fall on its back. Holy crp. Sonic whispered quietly, amazed at the display of power he just witnessed. Look, he's falling. The brown-haired girl yelled out, pointing to the falling figure of Izuku. Sure enough, Izuku was falling. And he was falling fast. Hey Gravity Girl, what's your name? Sonic asked the worried girl. It's Uraraka, the girl replied. Okay Uraraka. I'm going to need you to use your quirk on me and throw me to Midoriya, Sonic nonchalantly asked. Uraraka looked at Sonic like he was insane. Hey, are you crazy? You could get hurt. Uraraka frantically said. Look, there's no time to argue about it. Midoriya is about to become a green smear on the pavement if we don't do anything soon. Sonic replied, trying to convince the brown-haired girl. Uraraka looked at Sonic before looking back up at the falling Midoriya, who was even closer to the pavement, before looking back at Sonic. She reluctantly touched Sonic's head with her hand as a pink glow flashed before she took her hand off. Sonic's feet floated off the ground as Sonic looked at himself amazed. This is so cool. Uraraka grabbed the now floating Sonic and held him above her head. When I say go, throw me towards him, got it? Sonic asked. Got it. Uraraka replied confidently. Sonic was waiting for the right moment when Midoriya was in the right spot midair so that once Uraraka threw him he would collide into the boy, breaking his fall. Sonic, spotting Midoriya in the right place, yelled to Uraraka. Go. Uraraka with all her strength threw Sonic to the falling boy. Sonic went soaring high above everyone's heads while everyone on the ground watched the scene in awe. This is amazing. Now I know how Tails feels, man, I miss him. Sonic snapped out of his thoughts and focused back on the goal as his trajectory was lining up with Midoriya's. Right before Sonic collided with Midoriya midair, back on the ground, Uraraka put her hands together and yelled, release. So that Sonic could have his mass back. Because if Sonic collided with Midoriya with no mass, he would simply bounce off him. Sonic felt his mass come back as he tackled Midoriya midair. He grabbed onto him as now because of Sonic, the two of them were now flying to a nearby building. Angling himself so that his feet would hit the building, Sonic rotated himself around Midoriya. Sonic's feet soon made contact with the side of the building, and while holding on to Midoriya as tight as possible, Sonic zoomed down the building and down the street before skidding to a stop in front of Uraraka. Mission successful. The package has been received. Sonic exclaimed as he gently laid Midoriya down. Oh, thank goodness, you got Quirk. Uraraka turned away from the blue hedgehog and covered her mouth before throwing up on the ground. Are you okay? Sonic asked, stunned. Why yeah, I should be fine, Uraraka said, wiping her mouth before once again feeling that sick feeling and threw up again. Sonic decided to let her be before turning his attention to the green-haired boy. Midoriya? Are you alright? Sonic asked worriedly. Midoriya looked pretty banged up, he had tears in his eyes and his right arm was completely purple, and he also had tears throughout his gym suit. I just need 1 pp point, Midoriya groaned out. Wait, did he not get a single point? Sonic asked himself mentally. Midoriya using his one arm started to crawl frantically to the direction of a one-pointer. Whoa man. Take it easy. You literally just fell from the sky, you need help. Sonic said, trying to calm down his friend. No. I still have a chance to get at least 1 point before dash. Suddenly the blonde man came on the speaker announcing that the exam was officially over. And that's it. Time's up, the man announced before an alarm sounded signaling that it was over. Midoriya croaked a depressing sound before seemingly passing out. Oh boy, Sonic scratched his head while he kneeled down next to his now passed out friend. Sonic heard murmuring as he looked up and saw that a crowd had formed around them. Hey! We need some help over here. My friend's passed out and I think his arm is broken. Sonic shouted to the crowd that was watching. Just then, an old sweet voice spoke up, very nice, good work all around. The crowd looked back, stepping out of the way as a short elder woman walked towards the hedgehog. You're all heroes in my eyes, every one of you, the elder woman continued. Here, have some gummies, she said before handing some candy to nearby examinees. The woman was somewhere around classic Sonic's height and was wearing a white coat like a doctor would wear as well as a pink headgear. She had her gray hair in a bun and was carrying a cane that was shaped into a syringe. She stopped walking as she looked down at the sprawled-out Midoriya. Oh my goodness. You were hurt this badly by your own Quirk, sonny? The elder lady asked in surprise. Yeah, I guess something happened with his Quirk and this just happened to him. Sonic exclaimed. Ah, well don't worry dear. I'll fix him up in a jiffy. The old woman proceeded to kneel down and embrace the green-haired boy. Shocking Sonic and everyone watching. What are you dash? Sonic cut himself off as he noticed the injuries on Midoriya. Glowed a bright green and were starting to slowly fade away until they were completely gone. You're all watching a school nurse in action, a voice spoke from behind gaining all of their attention. It was the same blonde-haired boy with sparkles in his eyes that shot the blue laser at the pointer Sonic was going to destroy. The youthful heroine, Recovery Girl. Her quirk is a awesome boost of healing power, the boy continued, his accent most likely French. She's the only reason you can hold these reckless exams. The boy claimed as the green glow faded away off Midoriya. So she kind of has the healing abilities of the Chaos Emeralds. Sonic thought in amazement. Okay, I'm done here, is any else injured? She asked as she looked around at the crowd, only to met back by several kids shaking their heads no except for Uraraka's. 6 minutes earlier. Classic Sonic was looking up at the giant mech in shock, he had never seen anything like this, even by Dr. Robotnik. Classic Sonic thought that if he had the emeralds to go super, he surely could defeat the mech, but he didn't have the emeralds on him and even if he did, he knew the consequences if he did use them. Let's get out of here. A voice of the fleeing crowd shouted. I don't want to get smushed. Someone else cried out. We must flee. God is unleashing his wrath upon us. A girl with green vines for hair said as she ran by Classic Sonic. Out of my way you blue mouse, an angry voice yelled from behind Classic Sonic. Classic Sonic managed to jump out of the way as a certain loudmouth rushed past him. The blue hedgehog watched as Bakugo used his explosions to fly into the air towards the mech. The blonde boy then let out a massive explosion on the mech's body. Die. The explosion managed to cause the mech to stumble into a nearby building, causing debris to fall to the ground. Classic Sonic sighed as he slapped his head. That idiot was only causing more destruction. His ears perked up as he heard a scream. Classic Sonic looked towards where the scream came from and spotted a blonde girl with horns sticking out of her head looking up at the sky in horror as a big piece of concrete was falling after the mech crashed into the building and was about to crush her. Classic Sonic shot forward and jumped up, slicing through the concrete with his quills as it spilt into two, landing where the horned girl happened to not be. Without giving the girl any time to speak, Classic Sonic grabbed her hand and ran back to where everyone else was at a speed she could keep up with so that they wouldn't get smushed by more of the falling debris. As the two of them made it back with everyone else, the groovy man came on the speaker announcing the end of the exam. Bakugo, who this entire time was sending out barrages of explosions on the mech, roared in frustration before landing back down and storming away. Thank you for saving me. If it wasn't for you I would have become a smushed pancake, the blonde girl said, thanking the blue hedgehog. The girl had long blonde hair with two big horns on top of her head. Funny enough, she had hooves for feet and a small tail like that of a horse that would occasionally swift. She also had two big blue eyes and had a cute smile. Classic Sonic gave her a smile and a thumbs up. My name is Pony. Pony Tsunatori. What's yours? Pony asked. The young hedgehog only pointed at his mouth and shook his head, signaling that he couldn't talk. What's wrong? Can you not talk? The girl asked, a look of concern on her face. She was met back again with a shake of his head. Oh well, the exam is over, so I should probably get going. I hope we both got enough points to make it into U.A. Maybe we'll even get in the same class. Pony smiled, now a bit excited. She then walked away before waving bye to the blue hedgehog, who also waved back. Classic Sonic smiled to himself as he made his way around the destroyed pointer bots back to the entrance of the battle center. He couldn't wait to hear how the exam went for his older self. I'd say this year's group looks promising. I agree, Midnight. I think the examinees we've seen show much potential. Toshinori responded. Toshinori right now was with 4 other U.A staff members / pro heroes in the observation room for the U.A exam. The exam had just ended and they were beginning to talk about the results they had just seen from the examinees. Indeed, All Might, this year examinees have shown extraordinary skills and quirks during the exam, ranging from sheer power to intellect. I'm quite frankly excited for this year. All Might's old friend Nizu spoke while sipping on some tea. Cementos, will you pull up some examples of some of our most promising candidates? A pro hero who appeared as a walking cement brick with eyes and a mouth gave a nod before pulling up one of the first candidates up on the monitors. Let's begin with candidate 2235, Katsuki Bakugo, a young man whose quirk allows him to produce a nitroglycerin-like sweat from the palm of his hands, allowing him to detonate it, therefore making an explosion. Nizu explained. Katsuki Bakugo managed to get a stunning 67 points. Only being beaten out by 2 other candidates. Impressive for sure, the hero known as Ectoplasm began. But I couldn't help but notice the personality that boy has, although we couldn't hear him, the body language and the look on the kid's face after destroying a pointer says it all. An explosive personality for sure, but I think our good friend Aizawa can handle it, Nizu chirped as he was met back with a nod. Cementos pressed a button switching over to the next examinee. Let's see, candidate 1784, Ochako Uraraka, a young girl with a quirk called Zero Gravity. As the name states, Uraraka has the ability to touch a person, object or thing with the 5 pads at the tip of her fingers and can take away its mass, rendering it from the Earth's gravity, causing things to float. An interesting and versatile quirk indeed. Our next candidate is examinee 2234, izukumidoriya, Nizu began. This name grabbed all the attention of Toshinori. All Might, this is the boy, correct? Nizu asked the number 1 hero. Toshinori nodded his head. That is correct, sir, he answered. Midoriya is the boy I have chosen to be my successor and to receive one for all. Although he was quirkless when I saved him, he has the will and heart of a hero, Toshinori stated. From what we've just seen, that may be the case, Nizu agreed before a clip on the many monitors played showing the young green-haired boy jumping into the air. Although gaining no points, Midoriya, instead of running away, ran towards the danger, risking himself so that he could save examinee Ochako Uraraka. Because of this, he will be rewarded 50 rescue points. Getting him enough points into you. Nizu exclaimed. Toshinori smiled as he watched the clip of Midoriya. I'm so proud of you, young Midoriya, you've worked so strong these last 10 months. I can't wait to watch you grow at you. Toshinori warmly thought. Our next examinee managed to take second place in the whole exam, candidate 2300 Maurice the Hedgehog, a picture of a small blue figure with 6 large quills on the back of his head and 2 quills running down his back while wearing nothing but white gloves and red shoes appeared on the monitor. This captured the interest of all the U. staff immediately, especially Toshinori. Midnight's Maurice Hedgehog has a quirk listed as a mutant type that gives him the appearance of a blue hedgehog, just what his last name states. Nizu began. He has all the abilities of a hedgehog, enhanced hearing, smell, and can curl up into a ball just like a hedgehog can. He can also use his quills in defense or offense. Not only that, but Maurice here has the ability to run at faster than sound speeds. This bit of information shocked everyone but Toshinori. Sir, if I may ask, but how does a hedgehog mutant quirk give you the ability to run faster than the speed of sound? Ectoplasm asked with a baffled expression. An interesting speculation indeed, Ectoplasm. Nizu couldn't help but agree. Here listed in his file, apparently young Morris's quirk is a combination of that of a hedgehog mutant type quirk and a speed quirk. The hedgehog part belonging to his mother while he inherited his speed from his father. Nizu read off. Toshinori sighed internally. Right after the hedgehog said they would be willing to go to UA, Toshinori had asked Detective Tsukachi to work up some documents for the 2 hedgehogs, making up a story that they were from the States and that they had just moved here. The detective had also listed their quirks in the database, as all of that was needed to enter UA. Sir, I don't know if this is just his quirk or not, but doesn't he look a bit too young? Cementos scratched his cement head. You are correct, Cementos. Young Maurice here is only 11 years old, making him the youngest examinee to ever partake in a U.A exam. Almost all of the pro heroes gasped, which caused Toshinori to stiffen. He's only 11 years old. Midnight stammered out in disbelief. Shouldn't he be in I don't know, elementary school? That normally would be the case, Midnight, but Maurice here has performed exceptionally well on the written part of the exam. And even during the practical, he saved a young girl from being crushed by falling rumble, giving him as well 50 rescue points, beating out Katsuki Bakugo. Nizu stated as a clip played of the young blue hedgehog saving a blonde-haired girl with horns from being crushed by falling debris. I don't know about this, Nizu, Ectoplasm said, hesitation in his voice. If word got out about a 10-year-old attending U.A to the press, it may get ugly. That was another problem for Toshinori, Morris's age. Ectoplasm was right though, if word indeed somehow got out about a 10-year attending UA. A school that's usually meant for ages between 15 to 18. There would most likely be some backlash. Everything faces criticism in one form or another. As of right now, let's move on to the last examinee. Cementos changed the picture of the small hedgehog to the next examinee that was a slightly larger blue hedgehog that looked almost exactly the same as Maurice with only a few key differences. And finally, the candidate that took the number 1 spot of the exam. Sonic the Hedgehog. Besides Toshinori and Nizu, the four pro heroes were surprised to find they were looking at almost an exact copy of the examinee they had just discussed over. The only difference was that this time, this blue hedgehog was a little bit taller with longer quills, and instead of black pupils, he had emerald green ones, while his fur was a darker shade of blue from that of the lighter blue of the last examinee. From the look on your faces you must all be surprised, believe it or not. Sonic here is the older brother of Maurice, Nizu stated with a smile. He and his brother have almost the exact same quirk, both being able to run at high speeds, and having all the attributes of a hedgehog. The only difference there is the level of power the two possess. Due to Sonic being much older, I estimate his quirk is much more potent and can allow him to achieve faster speeds than his younger brother, Nizu explained. Sonic here, like his brother, has made it into U.A, with 37 points and 50 rescue points after helping Midoriya save a fellow examinee from danger. And then gaining another 50 on top of that for saving Midoriya himself, giving him a total of 137 points. Nizu said as he sipped on more of his tea. While the heroes looked at the pictures of Sonic in shock from the number of points he's made, Toshinori could only smile proudly. Young Maurice, young Sonic, although I had no doubt you both would pass. I'm still proud of you too, just like young Midoriya. I can't wait to see what you both can do at U.A, Toshinori thought with a smile. As Nizu continued on about the results of the exam, the R-rated hero Midnight couldn't help but think she has seen those hedgehogs before. Where have I seen those adorable little fuzzballs at? Midnight muttered to herself. Wow! So you also saved someone during your exam, huh? What a coincidence! Sonic said to Classic Sonic. After the exam, the two blue hedgehogs had met back up with each other and made their way back to Toshinori's place. I think I did great. How about you, Sonic? Sonic asked his past self. Classic Sonic did a backflip before giving Sonic a thumbs up while flashing him a smile. Heh, I'll take that as a you thought you did great as well. Sonic replied. I am kind of worried about Midoriya though. Right after I saved him, he said he didn't get a single point before he was carried away on a stretcher. Classic Sonic looked at him a little shocked hearing this. But before he could reply, both hedgehogs' ears perked up at the sound of the doorknob turning. The door opened, revealing Toshinori. Hey Yagi. Did you see us at the exam? Weren't we awesome? Sonic beamed as Toshinori hung his coat on the coat rack. Heh, that's strange, you didn't call me Tosh or Toshi. Toshinori smirked. Oh yeah, I finally remembered you're actually supposed to call each other here by your last name. Toshinori chuckled. Well, I'm alright with you calling me Toshi, young Sonic. Oh, thank chaos. Because calling you Yagi would be a lot too weird to me. No offense of course. Sonic sighed out of relief. Toshinori only shook his head with a small smile at the hedgehog. So Toshi, how did we do? Sonic asked with eagerness. You and young Maurice did, plus ultra. Toshinori yelled as he transformed into All Might. So we passed. That is correct, young Sonic, both you and young Maurice both passed with the top two highest scores of the entire exam. I'll admit. You both had me sweating there. Especially you, young Sonic. You almost beat my score. All Might wiped a brow. Sonic shrugged. What can I say? I'm one of the best. Indeed. But nonetheless, you both performed exceptionally. So pat yourselves on the back, my boys. You've earned it. All Might threw a thumbs up. Woo-hoo! Sonic exclaimed as both he and Classic Sonic did a victory dance with an imaginary S rank appearing over their heads. All Might gave a booming laugh at the hedgehog's unique way of celebrating before steam came off of the symbol of peace before turning back into a frail man as he coughed up BLD. Geez, even though it was just this morning I gave Midoriya one for all, I felt like I've been getting weaker even faster, Toshinori groaned, wiping his mouth with a nearby napkin. Classic Sonic frowned at this before he realized something. He nudged Sonic before motioning to Toshinori. Oh yeah. Speaking of Midoriya, do you know if he passed as well? Sonic asked, a bit concerned for his new friend. Don't worry young Sonic, Midoriya passed as well. I haven't told him yet but I'll tell him soon through the mail. Oh that's good to hear, Sonic said out of relief. Maybe we'll get into the same class as him Maurice. Sonic said to Classic Sonic who nodded in return. Toshinori winced. Yeah, about that, he began, sounding unsure. You see. Because Detective Tsukachi put into both of your files that you are related, the school now thinks you both are siblings. Okay and? What's the problem? Sonic asked, tilting his head. You see, there's a rule at UA where if two siblings make it into the hero course in the same year, they can't be in the same class. Toshinori sheepishly stated. Wait, me and me are going to be in different classes? Sonic asked with surprise. While Classic Sonic only crossed his arms with uncertainty. Yeah, you are going to be in class 1A, while young Maurice will be in class 1B, Toshinori stated. Sonic thought about it for a moment. Both he and his younger self were going to be in different classes. That was definitely something but wasn't something impossible from happening. Okay then, we'll roll with it. I know it will be strange being separated but it will dash. Wait, you both are fine with it? Toshinori asked a bit surprised. He had expected the hedgehogs or mostly Sonic to resist the idea. Yeah, if that's the way it's gonna be then that's the way it's gonna be, Sonic said while Classic Sonic nodded his head in agreement. Toshinori smiled before another thought came to his head. Oh, there's probably one more thing I should mention. But I don't know if you both will like it. What could it be? It can't be that bad. Sonic replied. 2 weeks later. This is literally the worst thing ever, Sonic complained grumpily with crossed arms. Classic Sonic wholeheartedly agreed while he pulled at the collar of his school uniform. Both hedgehogs weren't a big fan of clothes besides just wearing their gloves and shoes. So when they heard they had to wear a school uniform, both hedgehogs immediately tried to shoot down the idea. Tashi, why do we have to wear these? I would rather be able to actually move around, the blue hedgehog whined. Sorry young Sonic but those uniforms are mandatory. You both should be lucky that you were able to get your uniform changed so that your back quills and tail could poke out through a hole, Toshinori replied while receiving a groan in response. Fine. Sonic huffed. Toshinori sighed before looking at the clock. You both should probably get going, UA starts soon. I have to go meet up with Midoriya. Good luck young Sonic and Maurice. And with that, Toshinori left the two Sonics. Well alright buddy, time to go meet our classmates and start off a new adventure. Classic held out his hand and clenched his fist as he gave his future self a confident nod. Both Sonics had made it to UA and were currently walking through the hall looking for their designated classrooms. Let's see, Class 1A, Class 1A, oh. There it is. Both Sonics stopped in front of a massive, tall door that had a big red 1 printed on the door on top of a red A. Wow, talk about humongous. Sonic exclaimed, this door was huge. Did Quirks really make some people that big? Then again, Sonic did remember seeing that one giant heroine when he and Classic Sonic had saved Midoriya and Bakugo from that sludge villain. So he guessed they did. Okay Maurice. This is my stop, good luck in 1B. Sonic smiled to his younger self. Classic Sonic smiled back before giving his older a fist bump. The younger Sonic then walked away before disappearing around a corner. Sonic was just about to open the door before someone called out his name. Sonic. The blue blur raised a brow before he turned to his left ere his green eyes met another set of green eyes. Oh hey Midoriya. It's nice to see you here. It's nice to see you here as well Sonic, I'm glad to see a friendly face, Midoriya replied with a small smile. Yeah. So, I guess you and me are in the same class, huh? Sonic guessed. Oh. Is this class 1A? Well, if this giant door says so, so I guess it is. Sonic laughed. Man, this thing is huge. Do giants live here? Midoriya asked, stunned. Only one way to find out. Care to do the honors? Sonic asked, gesturing to the door for Midoriya to open it. Midoriya shivered as he looked at the door. I don't know, what if we're in the same class as Kaken or that stern boy with the glasses? Midoriya worriedly asked. Who's Kaken? Sonic asked. Oh well, he's an old friend of mine, but he's kind of mean to me. Doesn't sound like a friend if he's mean to you if you ask me, Sonic shrugged. Well yeah, but it's kind of complicated, Midoriya claimed. Look, there were hundreds of other examinees, right? So what are the chances both of those dudes got in? Hello, but dash. So take a deep breath. Sonic said while gesturing to his mouth. Midoriya followed by taking a deep breath. And in you go. Sonic exclaimed while sliding the door behind him without turning away from Midoriya. Sonic turned around only for his eyes to land on Bakugo and one student he was just talking about arguing with each other. Sonic could hear Midoriya shivering behind him while he groaned mentally at being so unlucky. Both were yelling and arguing at each other before the tall boy with glasses caught sight of the two. It's them. Bakugo turned his gaze towards the two before growling under his breath. Everyone else in the class turned their heads to look at the duo who had just entered the classroom. Meow. Sonic spoke, having no clue on what to say. Hi. It's super nice to meet you all. Midoriya exclaimed frantically. Just then the boy with glasses started to make his way over with a stern look. Sonic thought he was about to start something before he did something completely unexpected. He bowed. You both realized there was something more to the UDA exam, didn't y'all? Huh? Midoriya sounded. We did. Sonic confusingly asked. You both must be very perceptive, the boy continued. You both knew that there was more to the exam than just destroying robots. You both must have knew that saving lives is what also makes a hero, a hero. As students you both are far superior to me. Well, Midoriya began. And I would like to apologize, to the both of you. This completely caught both Sonic and Izuku off guard. I admit it was really uncalled for me to call you out like that, so I deeply apologize for my actions, the blue-haired boy said to Midoriya bowing. He then turned to Sonic and to you. You were only trying to stick up for him, and it was really immature for me to escalate the situation, so I'm also very sorry to you too, the boy apologized with a clear look of disappointment in himself. Midoriya couldn't get a sound out while Sonic couldn't believe his ears. This guy was already 1,000,000 times better than Boom Boy. Hey, no strong feelings man. How about we all put it behind us and start fresh? What do you say? Sonic exclaimed. Yes. I would like that, the boy agreed, before straightening up. Allow me to properly introduce myself. My name is Tenya Ida. I hope we can become good friends. I'm Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog. Nice to meet you, Ida. I am Izuku Midoriya, Midoriya shyly said, but then the green-haired boy's eyes slightly widened. Wait a second. Is something wrong, Midoriya? Sonic asked. Are you perhaps related to Tensei Ida? Otherwise known as Ingenium? The Turbo Hero? Midoriya asked, his voice growing with excitement. Ingenium? Must be some hero I haven't heard about yet, Sonic thought. Ida nodded. As a matter of fact I am. He's my older brother and I'm next in line to take the Ingenium name. It was like at that moment a spark was lit within Midoriya while his eyes beamed. Midoriya hurriedly took out his notebook before sending a barrage of questions at the boy. I have to. No. How fast can he go? Does he need to eat a lot of calories? What is his suit made of to withstand the friction? Is he fast enough to perceive things at those speeds? What's your quirk? Midoriya's barrage of questions turned into mumbles that no one could understand. Ida's mouth was wide open as he continued to stare at the mumbling boy, while Sonic could only watch in shock, unsure on what to do. Hey Midoriya! 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 Midoriya finally snapped out of his mumbling as Sonic called out his name loud enough to get him out of his trance. Wow! You were starting to scare me there. Sonic chuckled. Why yeah, sorry, it's kind of a habit of mine, Midoriya embarrassingly admitted. It's alright Midoriya, as long as you get it under control, you'll be fine, Ida said. Now, what was your first question? And say it slowly this time. As Midoriya was asking Ida questions, a cheerful voice was heard behind Sonic. Hey! It's you! I recognize those blue quills anywhere. Sonic turned around and found a familiar brown-haired girl looking at him. Oh! I remember you. Gravity Girl. Uraraka, right? Sonic asked. Yep, that's me. The one and only. Uraraka nodded. And I, never actually got your name, Uraraka said with a nervous laugh. Oh, I'm Sonic. It's nice to properly meet you without a giant robot trying to smush us. Sonic jokingly said, causing the girl to giggle. Yeah, true to that. I'm just happy I already made a friend here already. The bubbly girl exclaimed. If you're here to make friends then get out. Both Sonic and Uraraka with Midoriya and Ida looked towards where the voice came from. And let's just say Sonic had no clue what he was looking at. On the floor in the middle of the hallway looked like to be a yellow caterpillar that had a human head sticking out of it. What the heck is that thing? The four of them thought in unison. The four of them as well as the rest of the class gasped as they watched the man unzip the yellow sleeping bag he was in and got up off the floor. It took you all 8 seconds to shut up. That's not going to cut it, we need all of the time we can get. Rational students would understand that, the man emotionlessly said. The tired-looking man was slender and had long black hair with bangs, he had a growing mustache and an unwashed face, he was wearing a long black sleeve shirt with matching pants and had a gray utility belt, he also had a large gray scarf on. Hello, I'm Shota Aizawa. Your teacher. This is our teacher. He doesn't even look like he wants to be here. Sonic thought with pure confusion. Right, let's get to it, Aizawa said tiredly. Put these on and head outside, we're starting our quirk assessment test. Aizawa ordered while pulling out the gym uniform from a box. Wait, what? 10 minutes earlier. Classic Sonic turned the corner leaving behind his future self at the giant door to his class. He was walking down the hall passing by a few classrooms for the different courses before finally coming across Class 1B. Just like Class 1A, it had a giant door with 1B printed on the door, only this time in blue instead of red. Classic Sonic observed the door before immediately realizing a problem. The handle was too high for him. Classic Sonic put a finger to his chin in thought before his face lit up by coming up with an idea. Classic Sonic put his backpack down before jumping up and grabbing the handle, and that's where his idea failed him. Considering Classic Sonic was now dangling off the handle. Because it was a sliding door, Classic Sonic couldn't just push it open. The young Sonic frantically moved his legs while continuing to hang off the door's handle, trying to move it only to end with no such luck. Do you need help? A quiet voice spoke from behind him. Classic Sonic, while still hanging off the door handle, turned his head and found a mysterious girl behind him. The girl had chin-length, silver-gray hair parting over the left side of her face covering one of her eyes. The one eye that Classic Sonic could see was blue and had dark bag under it. She was in a strange body position with her hands held up as high as her elbows with her hands draped down. The combination of the silver hair and the body position gave her almost that of an appearance of a ghost. Classic Sonic sheepishly looked at the girl, then looked at the situation he was in. He let go of the handle and landed on his feet before stepping aside for the girl to open the door. The silver-haired girl however did something completely unexpected. She raised her hand still in a crooked position before the door had a purple, pink aura around and slid open by itself. Classic Sonic looked at the door amazed before turning back to the girl with the same amazed look. He then bowed, remembering how Toshinori taught him that bowing was a sign of thanks and respect. "Oh, it was nothing. I just saw you struggling so I thought I had to do something," the girl replied still in a quiet tone, avoiding eye contact. Classic Sonic tilted his head before he smiled as the two of them walked through the door and were met back with several heads turning their way. One of them being a familiar girl with horns. "Hey! You're the boy who saved me." Pony beamed as she got out of her seat and made her way over to the hedgehog. "Ha! I had a feeling we would get into the same class if we made it." Pony cheerfully carried on. Classic Sonic flashed her a smile. He was glad that she made it into the hero course. Classic Sonic then opened his backpack, grabbing a notepad and a pencil before scribbling something on it and handing it to the horned girl. "Huh? What's this?" Pony questioned. "Hi. My name is Maurice the Hedgehog. But you can just call me Maurice." She repeated off the notepad. "Oh right. You don't talk. Well, it's nice to finally know the name of my savior." "It's nice to meet you, Maurice," Pony exclaimed. Classic Sonic gave her a nod with a smile before realizing that the ghost girl that helped him in had already made her way to a desk in the far corner of the room away from everyone else. "I'm going to go back to my seat now. I already know this year will be great. Bye, Maurice." The blonde waved before walking back over to the front of the class. Classic Sonic watched her go as he walked to a nearby desk to sit in. He was about to sit in it before an idea came to his head. He looked towards the ghost girl who was sitting by herself in the corner of the room, who was just looking down at her lap. It seemed like she wasn't that much of a socializer. The small blue hedgehog made his way around the desks before choosing to sit at the desk right next to her. The silver-haired girl gave Classic Sonic a quick side glance before quickly returning her gaze back to her lap. The young blue hedgehog gave her a small wave and smile while tilting his head at her. The girl had a tiny smile form on her lips from the friendly action. "Hi," she whispered. As time went on, more and more students started to come through the door. For example, a girl with vines on her head that Classic Sonic quickly remembered seeing her from the exam, a black spiky-haired boy wearing a bandana on his head, a boy who had a speech bubble for a head walked through as well. That certainly interested the blue hedgehog. By the time class started, all the seats were filled up. "I wonder where our teacher is?" a brown-haired boy asked who was sitting on the desk in front of Classic Sonic. "See, could he be late?" a short plump boy with teal hair asked concerned. Just then all the talking was stopped as the door opened and in walked a large-built man wearing a red spandex suit. "Hello everyone, I am the pro hero known as Vlad King, and I will be your teacher. I welcome you all to U.A. Vlad King was a well-built bulky man, who had short pale, gray spiky hair. Whenever his mouth was closed, two visible lower canines could be seen at the bottom of his lip. The man wore a dark red skin-tight suit, with a low U-shaped collar. He had white boots on with thick silver vambraces over his lower arm, that each had a wire coming off it that lead to the back of his neck. Down by his waist was a three-piece metallic belt which dips downwards at the center. The man also had a yellow domino mask over his eyes and forehead ending at the bridge of his nose. This guy was definitely interesting looking to Classic Sonic, especially those wires he had attached to his arms. What could his quirk be? The young Sonic could only wonder. This year I expect great things from all of you. We will be working on training our quirks and testing your knowledge on what it's all about to be a hero, Vlad King continued. We will be doing a quirk assessment test right after the orientation ceremony, so prepare yourselves. Murmurs and whispers could be heard around the room, most likely about the information that was said. Quirk assessment test. Did this mean Classic Sonic had to show what he can do? This only pumped the small blue hedgehog up with excitement. What? A quirk assessment test. The whole class exclaimed in surprised unison. But orientation. We're gonna miss it. Uraraka explained worriedly. If you really want to make the big leagues, you can't waste time on pointless ceremonies, Aizawa replied bluntly. Geez, has this guy ever had any fun in his life? Sonic muttered under his breath, why was he being so cranky? All of the students of class 1A were currently standing outside of the school wearing gym uniforms, which were more comfortable and sleeker than the standard uniform, but Sonic still would have preferred not to wear anything. They were all in front of a field that was shaped like a diamond, just like that of a baseball field. There was a track around the field with a throwing ring where Aizawa was standing in. There were also 5 pull-up bars side by side to each other, and a sand pit not far off from the field. Here at U.A, we're not tethered to traditions, Aizawa continued on. That means I get to run my class how I see fit. The class gasped and murmured at the strict tone and info. Uraraka shivered while taking a step back. You've all been taking standardized tests most of your lives. But I bet none of y'all have done it with your quirks, Aizawa guessed. The country still is pretending to believe that everyone is equal, not letting anyone with power excel. But that isn't anywhere close to being rational, and thinking like that will not help anyone in the slightest. Sonic thought that the grumpy teacher's view on things was a little unfair, but could also understand it at the same time. If people had powerful quirks, then why hold them back? But just because they were powerful didn't mean they were better than anyone else. Sonic, you managed to get the most points in the entire entrance exam, right? Aizawa asked, looking at the blue hedgehog. That's right, Sonic confirmed while a few heads turned his way in awe. He got number 1 in the exam. No way. What was your farthest throw in junior high? Aizawa asked. Sonic stared at him before going to his thoughts. Of course, Sonic never actually went to school here or back home on his world, so that meant he actually never threw a ball and got it recorded on how far he threw it, so he had to come up with a rational number. 44 meters I think, Sonic replied, making up a fake number. Right, try doing it with your quirk, anything counts as long as you stay within the perimeter, Aizawa explained, gesturing to the white circle that had a ball in the middle. Sonic separated from the group and walked towards the circle. He could feel multiple sets of eyes on the back of his head of everyone watching, especially Bakugo's. He could feel his death glare burning a hole through his head for probably taking away his number 1 spot. Sonic only smirked at the thought of making the blonde mad before reaching down and picking up the ball. Go on, you're wasting our time, Aizawa groaned. Hold your horses, teach. I gotta come up with a scenario first, Sonic replied. That's Mr. Aizawa to you, Aizawa muttered, instantly figuring out what type of person Sonic was. Sonic examined what he was working with. He was within a circle that was about 6 feet in radius, and because speed was Sonic's thing, he didn't have enough distance to gather the momentum to throw the ball that far. He put a finger to his chin before an idea popped into his mind. Oh yes. This has to work. I can't wait to see the look on Boom Boy's face after I pull this stunt. Sonic thought excitingly. Sonic then began to run around near the inner edge of the circle with the ball still in hand at a high speed where only the rest of Class 1A and Aizawa could see a blue blur. Aizawa had to cover his eyes because at the speed at which the hedgehog was going and of how close he was, dust was being thrown in every direction. For a few more moments Sonic continued to run around before suddenly turning his direction to the middle of the circle while cocking his arm back with the ball. Sonic came to a stop, and then with the momentum he built up through his arm at such a speed that a small gust of wind was created that blew back Aizawa long hair, even reaching the rest of the class where the ones in the front had to cover their faces. Sonic watched as the ball got farther and farther away from sight into the sky before a white sparkle flashed. And that's how it's done. Sonic enthusiastically exclaimed while holding a finger to the sky. The rest of the class looked towards the sky in shock while Aizawa turned his attention to the monitor he was holding where it read, 1,091 meters. Over 1,000 meters, not bad, almost all of the class gasped at such a score. Bakugo's mouth was slightly open in shock before he growled, "Show off. 1 to 1,000 meters. That's so high." A blond boy with a black lighting bold imprint on his hair said in disbelief. "That was such a manly throw." A boy with spiky red hair exclaimed. "I wanna go. This looks like so much fun." A girl with fluffy pink hair and skin squealed. "So this looks like fun, huh?" Aizawa deadpanned, causing the pink-skinned girl to look at him with confusion. "Fine, how about this? Out of the 8 physical tests we'll do today to gauge your potential, whoever comes in last has none and will be expelled immediately," Aizawa said, emphasizing the "expelled" part. The entire class then gasped at this news with frightened looks. "You can't be serious. That's not fair at all." Sonic yelled out to the teacher. "Oh, but I am. You think villains will be fair to you? No, they will exploit anything just to beat you, or how about natural disasters? Huh. The world is full of unfairness and it's part of a hero's job to deal with that unfairness, so SCK it up," Aizawa replied harshly. This had to be some kind of sick joke, expulsion on the first day. That wasn't right at all. What kind of teacher would do that? Sure, Sonic understood where Aizawa was coming from considering he's dealt with all of Eggman's tricks from over the years, but to expel whoever got in last because they had no potential was completely wrong in the Hedgehog's view. "We're just wasting our time by talking," Aizawa continued. "So, let the games begin. Test 1 50-meter dash." Mr. Aizawa now had all of the class in front of a 50-meter dash. To the side of the finish line was a measuring device that was used to measure how long it would take a person to complete it. Sonic smiled internally because he knew he had this in the bag. "So, do we have any first volunteers?" Aizawa tiredly asked. Before any of the class could respond, a hand shot up. "Oh. Me. I volunteer." Sonic excitingly exclaimed while raising his gloved hand. Aizawa tiredly looked at the ecstatic hedgehog before motioning his head towards the starting line where Sonic happily walked over to. "Anybody else?" The class awkwardly looked at one another before another hand raised up. "I would like to also volunteer," Ida stated. Aizawa nodded his head before jerking a thumb behind him. "So I guess we're racing, huh, Ida?" Sonic asked as Ida reached his position. "It seems that way. As a matter of fact, I actually wanted to race you, Sonic," Ida revealed. "Huh? What for?" Sonic asked, mildly surprised. "Well, you see. My quirk is called Engine, in case if you haven't noticed the engines on the back of my calves," Ida said while showing off his legs. Sonic looked down and sure enough, there were 6 sets of small steel tubes on the back of each of Ida's legs. Sonic's eyes widened. He never actually noticed them until Ida pointed them out. "These engines allow me to run at great speeds, and if I'm not mistaken, your quirk is also speed-related, yes?" "That's right. Sonic's the name. And speed's my game. And I bet you want to see who's the faster one of the two of us." Sonic guessed with a sly smirk. "Well, I wanted to compare our speeds, but, yes," Ida confirmed, sounding almost ashamed while scratching the back of his head. "I'm down. I'm always up for a friendly race," Sonic excitingly exclaimed. "Can you both hurry up? We don't have all day out here," Aizawa said, irritated from the side. "Yes, sir. Sorry, sensei." Ida apologized while quickly bowing. Aizawa shook his head before pressing a button on the monitor he was holding before a robotic, feminine voice spoke up from the measuring device. "Runners. On your marks." Both Sonic and Ida got into a running position. "Ready. Get set. Go." Right when the clear was given, Ida shot forward at high speeds like a Formula 1 race car as he raced across the 50 meters. With one big leap he managed to cross through the finish line, skidding to a stop, only to find Sonic already there. Ida's jaw dropped as he frantically looked back between Sonic and the starting line while pointing between the two. BB, but you were right there. I didn't even see you dash. Run past you. Sonic interjected with a big grin on his face. Before Ida could respond, the measuring device spoke up to announce the times. Runner 1. 0.02 milliseconds. Runner 2. 3.04 seconds. Ida's face almost turned ghostly white as he heard Sonic's time. The rest of the class couldn't believe their ears. Even Aizawa looked impressed. Midoriya watched the scene with a smile. He knew how fast Sonic was considering he watched him and his little brother beat All Might of all people in a race. So the moment he saw Ida step up, he kind of felt bad for him. Midoriya always thought Sonic's quirk was amazing and had written some stuff about it in his hero notebook. Midoriya honestly thought almost no one would be able to catch him, with the only exception being his little brother Maurice. Whoa, it was like he teleported. I didn't even see him move. A boy with strange-shaped elbows exclaimed. Wow, he's really fast. The same pink girl from before said in awe. Really, fast. Ribbit, a girl with long forest green hair, agreed next beside her. He's becoming more manly by the second. The same boy with spiky red hair said enthusiastically, while Bakugo only growled and rolled his eyes. He's not that impressive, Bakugo huffed. Sonic could only snicker while rubbing the bridge of his nose as he heard the comments from the class. WL Sonic, I think it's safe to say you are the better one of the two of us, Ida stated with a hint of sadness. Maybe, but you did great yourself. 3 seconds is nothing to scoff at. Sonic replied, trying to cheer him up. Ida looked down at his shoes in thought before looking back up towards Sonic with a new look of confidence. Yes, you are right. Although you are superior to me in speed, I will not let this discourage me and will only use this moment to fuel my will in becoming faster and a hero. Ida proclaimed with newfound confidence. That's what I like to hear. And hey, maybe we can even train together sometime. Sonic suggested. That sounds like a great idea, Ida replied with a smile. As the races went on, Sonic watched in amazement at all the different quirks being used. He saw how a girl with big eyes and long green hair bounced up and unleashed a long tongue like that of a frog and shot it to the finish line and used it to pull herself over to finish. Bakugo was against Midoriya and had used his explosions to propel himself to the finish, which Sonic admitted wasn't a bad idea, while Midoriya simply ran as fast as he can to finish. Meanwhile, a girl that was tall and had long spiky black hair had created skating shoes out of her skin to use in the dash. Test 2, Grip Strength. Unless Sonic was in his super form, then strength wasn't his thing. Sonic thought it was more of Knuckles' thing. Aizawa now had the class grip as strong as they could. Sonic only managed to get 37 kilograms. Like he said, strength wasn't his thing. Wow. Sonic's thoughts were cut off as he looked towards in front of him and saw two boys gawking at a large-built student with 6 arms getting an impressive score. You hit 540 kilograms. You're such a beast. A boy with shoulder-length swayed back hair exclaimed. Yeah. Like a muscle-y octopus. Said a small boy with purple ball. For hair. Sonic eyes caught the sight of green hair as he saw Midoriya eyes switching back to his own score and the 6-armed student with a worried expression. I hope Midoriya is doing okay. He hasn't used his quirk yet, Sonic thought with concern. Test 3, Standing Long Jump. Sonic ran forwards and jumped high into the air before boosting across and above the entire sandpit before landing on the ground. Aizawa gave him a curious look, most likely because of the blue aura that appeared in front of Sonic, but decided not to press Sonic about it and just called the next person over. A blonde boy that Sonic quickly realized was the same one from the entrance exam came up. He jumped before shooting a familiar blue laser out of his stomach, which pushed him across. After Bakugo's turn was over, it was Midoriya, where once again he didn't use his quirk and jumped only to fall on his butt. Perhaps he doesn't want to hurt himself like last time. Sonic guessed mentally. Test 4, repeated side steps. At the blow of a whistle, Sonic sidestepped between the lines back and forth so fast it looked like there were two Sonics at the same time. His classmates had to rub their eyes to make sure they weren't hallucinating from the heat. Test 5, ball throw. Sonic's jaw dropped as he watched Uraraka's ball fly higher and higher into the sky until it was completely gone from sight. Aizawa then held up his monitor, which had a pink infinity symbol on it. Infinity? The whole class screamed. That's insane. How's that even possible? A blonde boy with a black lightning bolt marking on his hair said in shock. While the rest of the class started to murmur with each other. Because Sonic had already done the ball throw at the beginning of class, he was the only one excluded from it. The next person up was Midoriya. If Midoriya doesn't shape up soon, then he's the one going home. Ida spoke while shaking his head as the class watched, anticipating on what Midoriya would do. Sonic frowned at Ida's words. But he still believed in Izuku. Of course he is. He's a quirkless loser. That's why. Bakugo suddenly jumped in. Great, not this guy again. Sonic mentally sighed. Why did this kid have to be such a mood killer wherever he went? First it was when he threatened to fight Sonic and Classic Sonic at the track. Now he was going after Midoriya. The two clearly have history between them. Much more than when Izuku tried to save him. Whatever happened in the past, it didn't matter to Sonic. He was going to find out why this kid was acting like a jerk. Sonic glared towards the blonde. Okay, what's your problem, man? Why are you being such a jerk? Bakugo's crimson eyes peered down at the blue hedgehog. Eyes that were full of anger, unknown for what reasons to Sonic. I don't have to tell you a damn thing, mouse. But I will tell you this. He then pointed towards Midoriya. He doesn't belong here. I don't know how he passed the entrance exam, but an insignificant little ant like himself shouldn't have even thought in the first place of being at U.A. A school for only the best. Like myself. Bakugo ranted on. Sonic crossed his arms. Or maybe, it's just you. Bakugo's face contorted. What? He gritted his teeth. You said it yourself. This school is only for the best, right? Last I recalled, this was a hero school. Not a school for second-rate hem-down bullies. Sonic spoke with a smirk. A BLD vessel might have just popped on the blonde boy's forehead, but Sonic didn't care. It was too funny messing with this guy's temper. But what right did he have to say that about Midoriya? Especially after Midoriya had tried to save his life from the sludge villain. Before Bakugo could lash out at Sonic, the blue hedgehog cut him off. And besides, Midoriya took down the zero-pointer with one punch. It's true. Me and Sonic saw it firsthand. Uraraka confirmed. Huh? Bakugo sounded confused at what was being claimed. Deku? One-shotting a zero-pointer? There was no way in hell that was true. These people need to get their eyes checked. Especially that cocky blue mouse who thinks he's so cool. Bakugo just wanted to barf. Sonic rolled his eyes before he turned his attention back to Midoriya, who seemed to be deep in thought before grunting and cocking his arm back as it started to glow. Sonic's eyes widened. Was this it? Was Midoriya finally using his quirk? Midoriya with all his strength threw the ball, and the ball only flew about 46 meters. Wait, what? Sonic's eyes were full of confusion as he could have swore he saw his arm glowing. He could see how Midoriya was looking at his arm with a mixture of confusion and fear. I erased your quirk. Huh? Midoriya sounded. Midoriya turned his gaze to Aizawa's, who was now standing in front of him with now his scarf floating around him while his long black hair was floating as well. It seems the judges were too rational, Aizawa stated. Someone like you should never be allowed to roll at this school. Sonic was now confused. What did he mean by, I erased your quirk? And why was Aizawa so harsh all of a sudden? Wait, you did what to my, those goggles? Midoriya exclaimed while pointing at now visible yellow goggles that were hung around Aizawa's neck. I know you. You can look at someone and cancel out their powers. Midoriya explained. The Erasure Hero. Eraserhead. Eraserhead? That's kind of a silly name for a superhero, Sonic thought with a snort. Eraserhead? Who's that? Someone asked from the group. Oh, I've heard of him. I think he works on the down low, the girl with the frog-like quirk explained. You're not ready and you don't have control over your power, Aizawa continued to bash the poor boy. Were you planning to break your bones again? Counting on someone else to save your useless body? Aizawa was really tearing through Midoriya. From what Sonic could hear, it seemed like Midoriya couldn't control his power without breaking his body. And Aizawa was basically kicking him out because of it. But isn't it Aizawa's job to help him control that power? That's what Sonic thought. What? No. That's not what I was trying to dash. Before Midoriya could finish, Aizawa used his scarf to wrap around the green-haired boy and reel him in so they could talk face to face. Although they were talking more quietly so that the rest of the students couldn't hear them, Sonic with his enhanced hearing could make out a decent amount of words being spilt from Aizawa, where he was basically telling Midoriya that he was powerless and reckless and would only be a liability in battle and that he didn't belong here, just like what Bakugo was saying. After deciding he heard enough, Sonic knew what he had to do. Hey! Wait a second! Sonic called out. Aizawa and Midoriya turned their attention to the blue hedgehog that had made himself known. Yeah, what? If you're basically saying that Midoriya here is powerless and that he can't control his power, then isn't it your job as a teacher to help him learn and control his power? Sonic questioned. If he had shown any potential, then this would be a different story. But if Midoriya was put on the field, he would only be a danger to himself and others, Aizawa answered. Maybe if you gave him a chance to throw the ball, then he might surprise you. And as a teacher, you shouldn't be discouraging and making your students thinking that they're a lot weaker than they actually are. You should be encouraging them and boosting their self-confidence. And if you are unwilling to do that, then perhaps you should be replaced. Sonic finally finished putting his foot down. The class started to whisper amongst themselves, thinking Sonic was about to get expelled. Aizawa only glared at the blue hedgehog, with Sonic glaring right back. Aizawa's glare then dropped with his floating hair and scarf as he turned back to Midoriya. Fine, I gave you back your quirk. Just hurry up and throw it so we can get this over with, Aizawa grumbled as he walked to the sidelines to watch. Midoriya turned his gaze from Aizawa to Sonic, who was giving him a smile before nodding at the boy to go for it. Midoriya nodded back with a smile as he turned back to the open field and cocked his arm back. Hey! Hey! Is he for real? No one else heard it, but Sonic's ears picked up a voice not too far away from behind the class. He quickly turned around, and what he could see from in between the legs of the other students was Toshinori as All Might peeping around the corner of the school building while wearing a tacky yellow suit, watching the scene unfold. Grabbing back Sonic's attention, a loud boom was heard as Midoriya's ball flew high into the air while breaking the sound barrier at the same time. Class 1A watched in awe as the ball climbed higher and higher until it was out of view. Wow, that was so awesome! Sonic beamed to himself. Aizawa looked down at the monitor where it read 705.2 meters. Mr. Aizawa, Midoriya grunted, causing Aizawa to look up from the monitor. You see? I'm still standing. Midoriya painfully grinned as he clenched his hand. Midoriya's pointer finger was now broken as it took on a dark purplish color like the time where he broke his arm at the entrance exam. Aizawa gave a wide grin. This kid. Maybe he wasn't so hopeless after all. He diverted his quirk into his finger rather than his whole arm and launched the ball with it. Perhaps the hedgehog was onto something. Sonic continued to watch Midoriya with a proud smile before he started to hear miniature explosions a few feet away from him. he turned his head and found Bakugo seething in anger. A teasing smirk formed on Sonic's face. Well, what do you know? I guess he does belong here after all. This is impossible. Deku should have gotten a quirk when we were kids. Something is up and I'm going to find out what. Bakugo growled, not even looking at Sonic before charging towards Midoriya. Hey Deku, you bstrd. Tell me how you did that or you're dead. He screamed. Midoriya, who was still focused on his broken finger, turned with a look of horror on his face to the raging bull that was Bakugo, who was currently sprinting towards him. Before Bakugo could reach out towards Izuku to grab him, something from above slammed into him, making him sprawl out onto the ground. What the hell? Bakugo coughed up, bits of saliva coming out of his mouth. He couldn't exactly look up as someone was on top of him with their foot pressed down against the side of his face. You know, Boom Boy, if you really want to become a hero, then you really gotta stop acting like a villain. Sonic smirked. Get the hell off me, mouse. Bakugo yelled before he attempted with his free arm to blast Sonic, but the blue blur grabbed his arm in time and redirected it towards a random direction. First off. Hedgehog. Second off. I don't know what beef you have with Midoriya, but I'm not just going to let you hurt him just because you were wrong about him. Aizawa looked at the scene annoyed. First day of school and already a fight has broken out in his class. He just knew this was going to be a wonderful year. Alright, break it up, you two. Don't make me use my quirk. I get serious dry eye. He claimed. Sonic looked at Aizawa with uncertainty before reluctantly getting off Bakugo. Sonic then tuned to Midoriya, who had watched what just transpired with wide eyes. He then gave a grateful nod to Sonic before he slowly got around Bakugo, who was now back on his feet staring at the ground before making a mad dash back to the rest of the class. Ouch! Is your finger okay? Uraraka asked with concern. Sure. It's fine. Midoriya stammered. I got to say, that was one mighty throw you did there. Sonic complimented, returning to the group. Yeah. You threw it so far. Uraraka smiled. Heh, but not as far as you, Uraraka, Midoriya replied shyly back. Bakugo walked back to the very edge of the group with his head hung low and his hands in his pockets. He could feel the many dirty glares from his classmates for the stunt he just tried to pull. But he didn't care. To hell with them. All they were to him were just obstacles to overcome. But his blood boiled as he glanced toward Sonic. That rat had just humiliated him a second time. He had Bakugo under his shoe like he was some sort of servant. On his first day at U.A. The school where he would show all these extras that he was superior to them. That he would become the greatest hero. That he would even surpass All Might himself. That blue bstrd, I couldn't even get him off me. How? Who does he think he is? Look at him talking with worthless Deku. Deku, you must think you're so much better than me if you had to hide your quirk after all these years. I'll show you, both you and that blue mouse. It'll prove that I'm better than the both of you combined. Just you wait. The next tests flew by in a flash where Sonic would help Midoriya to the best of his ability with Uraraka because of his broken finger with sit-ups and other things like that. After all the tests were completed, it was time for the results. Alright, time to give you your results, Aizawa tiredly proclaimed. I ranked you all from best to worst, you should probably have a good understanding of your standing already. Aizawa said as he clicked a button. Just then a blue hologram blinked into existence showing all the names of the students in order of who did the best at the top while getting worse down the ladder. All the students squinted their eyes trying to find their names, hoping they didn't end up getting last. Sonic found his name at third place behind two names, one being called Shototodoroki at second place while the first place belonged to a name called Momo Yaoyorozu. Sonic quietly chuckled to himself as he saw Bakugo's name under his own. That was sure to have ticked the explosive teen off even more than he already was. Sonic's eyes slowly went down the list as his eyes landed on the name who got last. Oh no. Sonic muttered. Sonic's eyes quickly flung over to Midoriya where he could see a look of terror on his face. Did this mean Midoriya was expelled? No, this wasn't right. Aizawa can't just kick him out like that. Sonic was just about to speak up, planning to let Aizawa know that if he kicked Midoriya out then he was leaving too before. Oh, and by the way, no one is getting expelled. I only said that as motivation to try your best. Huh? The whole class expressed out in shock. I'm surprised none of you guys figured that out. I'm sorry, I probably should have said something, the tall girl with spiky black hair and a ponytail spoke up. No kidding. Sonic thought while sighing. Alright, that's all for today, class. 1B will be using this field in 15 minutes, so head back to the class by then. And Midoriya, go get your finger checked up by Recovery Girl. Tomorrow is where the real training begins, so prepare yourself, Aizawa tiredly said while walking away. Huh. Speaking of Class B, I wonder how Maurice is doing. Sonic asked himself, curious about his past self. 15 minutes later. Okay class, now that we're here out on the field, it's finally time we started our Quirk assessment test. Vlad King roughly stated. After sitting in an auditorium for an hour listening to a small white bear, mouse, cat. Classic Sonic didn't really know, talk about how great this year will be and how he expected great things. Classic Sonic was just glad to be out and ready to roll. Class 1A had already been here, not surprising. So I have all their scores written down and I want all of you to try and outdo their scores to the best of your ability, Vlad King stated while holding a clipboard. Near Classic Sonic, the young Sonic raised a brow as he could hear a lanky blonde boy mutter how they were going to show 1A who the better class was. We're not only out here to test your limits but to also to reach the top and to outdo your competitors. It seemed like Vlad King was a competitive man. Wanting to one-up Class 1A at every single chance he can get. First we will be conducting a 50-meter dash, so let's have someone do an example. Vlad King eyed all of his students while stroking his chin, with all of the students flinching when his eyes landed on them. Vlad's eyes then landed on Classic Sonic's small figure who was at the front of the group. Ah yes, Maurice. You got second place for most points during the exam. Are you willing to go first? Vlad King asked. Classic Sonic opened his mouth, showing his surprise for being chosen. Classic Sonic then gave a slight nod before walking forward to the starting line. Classic Sonic could feel the entire class's gaze on him, most likely judging his small size and physique. Really? He got second place? The same blonde boy said, not believing the teacher's words. But he's so small. He's. Brown-haired friend said. But also really adorable. Just like my mushrooms. A short girl with light brown bangs and shoulder-length brown hair said. Don't count him out. He's stronger than you think. Pony exclaimed, clenching her hands. As Classic Sonic made it to the starting line, Vlad King pressed a button on the monitor he was holding which activated the measuring device that was at the side of the finish line. Get ready, runners. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Sonic Speed 546 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.